Welcome back, everyone, to another episode. And today I have a very special announcement because we're doing a little bit of a new thing here on the podcast. Because my dear friend and colleague Alex and I, we have been talking lately a lot about all things money because we see money as our spiritual teacher. And we have noticed how impactful our daily conversations are on Voxer. And then Alex was like, why don't we share this goodness with other people? Because we both feel it could really help people a lot. And so we're going to start this series of spiritual money talks. And I'm super excited about it. I mean, we're doing this anyways, right? We're just sharing now this goodness with all of you. So without further ado, here we are. Welcome, Alex. I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so happy we're here too.
Yes. And I mean, we have known each other for many years. I think it's going to be 7 years this year, which also, I mean, 7 years is kind of these big cycles in life we go through, we often talk about. It's like a time of renewal. And I feel like we're both in a very strong up level phase right now. And yeah, we felt called to like, hey, you want to talk about abundance and money and wealth on a daily basis? And when she asked me, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm working on right now. And really feel this energy of expansion and talking about the things that are actually uncomfortable and has been, yeah, really magical for us, right?
It's been super magical. And if you think about it, like 7 years, when we first met online, in a group program on the internet, and for those of you who don't know, Analena and I are both from the same little small town in Germany, but we met each other in the US of A on the internet. So
Yeah.
we've been friends ever since. And the thing with this 7 year cycle, if we think about it, because we're women, we have a couple of cells that are our eggs that are always staying the same. But other than that, every cell in our body is not the same anymore since we met. So
Mhm.
that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, that's true. It renews it in the body. So we are completely new humans.
Really new ones.
Yeah, I love it. And so, little backstory with that. So the program that we met in, we were both very brand new baby coaches, how I often like to say. And we invested into a program, and that's how we met. And it was a very, very high ticket offer. And for both of us, it wasn't the right thing, right? We were like, okay, we have 8 weeks to make this happen. We had to invest a lot more money to make this work. It was like with Facebook ads and like a sales funnel. And when you're not clear on your offer, like I wouldn't recommend it today. But hey, we met each other. In that sense, it was probably one of the best investments we have made in our life and our businesses, right? Because yeah, we have gone through a lot of things. We even had a business partnership for a little while. Then we realized, well, it's time to do our separate things. You were the person that introduced human design to me. So we have a lot of things that are in common. And we have even done master classes years ago about money. And they
Yeah.
were quite successful. I think you and I, we have both been working with our clients on money for many years now. And I really feel that, you know, money is such a big topic, especially as an entrepreneur. We're single moms, we have bills to pay, we have kids to take care of. We want to create impact in the world. We want to change other people's lives and support also other businesses, that are doing good things in the world. So we love money. And from our own journey, we have noticed we can fall into extremes. And
Yes.
that's something we want to talk about today because that came up, when we were talking during our morning walks and like, so you want to start with that a little bit?
Yeah. And I also want to give a little bit more context on, when we were working together and when we were working apart, because a big part of our journey obviously has been the human design
Mm,
piece, right? And when I found out about human design just before the pandemic started, when I started working with Melanie and Lair in her 1 year program, and everyone was talking about this thing called human
yeah.
design. I was like, what is this? And then they told me about the chart thing. I was like, Annalena, you have to look this up. This is like, if my whole life makes sense now. And of course, there was tropical, and Analena and I are both also now expanding more since the last year into the true sidereal piece. And I'm sure over time we'll share a lot more with you about that. But when our business journey went different routes was basically also because we were exploring with the types more, right? And I know we both have a little bit of a different angle on human design right now, but we still have a, even though we approach it from different sides, we have a very underlying experience of the journey of it and what it means. And while you are less into the types now, and I'm way more into the types, right? And you in your tropical and in your true sidereal, your listeners probably already know this, but my audience might not know this. You're a Mani Gen and a Gen, and me in my tropical and in my true sidereal, I'm a self-projected projector and a reflector. So I didn't know that about the reflector piece for a long time. So I just went deep on projectors, right? And so that's where I took things to the side a little, and you went your own journey and then had another business partnership too. I feel like it's all beautiful how we're gathering all of this stuff to come back together
Yeah.
because we have, interestingly, even though our types are so different, when we're looking at our charts, whether tropical or true sky, we're always like, oh my God, you have that too. And we have so much.
Yeah. We have a
And
lot of gates, or I like they call them the genius archetypes. We have a lot. We were talking about it last week, right? I was like, yeah, I have that gate. I have that gate. So we actually have a lot in common when we look beyond the types. Exactly.
true. And also, for example, the money theme in our charts, right? For you, you have that in some of the channels, and for me, I have that in my astrology more, which is also a fascinating thing. And I think we both agree to that human design is a great system to look at some things. But when you combine it, for example, with the gene keys and then also with astrology, that's when everything becomes more rounded. And then you introduced me actually to Kabbalah last year after
I
my
did. Yeah.
breakup. And it's been such a journey to me. And I think I've gone a little bit deeper into that for the last almost year. And so we're bringing all of this together to help us understand abundance on a deeper level, and especially sustainable abundance, because I think we've both gone through these, as we're talking about extremes today, right? The ups and the downs of
Mhm.
making money, losing money, having a lot of big launch, and then all gone again, stress, and then end of the month, financial panic attacks, as I like to call them, right? But so we want to just share with you all what we've been learning, and this is more of the context of all the lenses that we're looking through, a lot of spiritual stuff, obviously, doing these spiritual money talks.
Yes, I love it. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, and you're now teaching me Kabbalah because you really went super deep into it. So yeah, we're gonna share all this wisdom with you guys. And today we wanted to talk a little bit more about these extremes we can experience with money. So when I started my journey as an entrepreneur, I went into the extreme where I thought, well, I have to make money. And I think that also in a way makes sense, right? Because when you have your own business, one of the things to do is to make money because without making money, without having clients, unfortunately, we don't have a business. And at the time, I didn't have a corporate job anymore, right? And you also were not in a corporate job as well, right? So in a way, the pressure was on to be real. And what I realized eventually is that I was focusing too much on making money. And I was more taking action from pressure in this sense, right? And also, in a way, putting money on a pedestal where I looked at people that were talking a lot about money and they seem to have made it in terms of their finances and their business. And I kept feeling like there's something wrong with me or I'm missing something. And that's when, once human design came into our world, I was like, oh, we're all different and there's not a proven concept. And it doesn't always have to be that you spend so much money, because when I started to realize that money is a spiritual teacher to me, I was like, hmm. maybe if it hasn't worked, because that's one of the things that Einstein said, right? If you keep doing the same thing over and over again and you expect different results, that's the definition of insanity or crazy. So my unique experience, and I think you can share this experience, right? Where we heavily overinvested for quite some time, especially the first years, often money that I didn't have. Well, yes, I had access to the money through credit cards and loans and things like that. But once I spent the money, I had the pressure to just make the money back, right? Not even talking about profits. So I got myself into a very tight situation there. And when I finally realized that, okay, that doesn't work for me, I had to really stop listening to a lot of insights about money where it was always, hey, in order to grow your business, you have to invest yourself and take the big leap. And while I really believe in investing myself, I started to realize that there's a lot of coaches out there that offer amazing things at a lower cost. I'm still investing in myself, but the experience, that's the big thing here. It felt safe to my nervous system. I think that's the key.
Which part felt safe to your nervous system?
Well, where I didn't overinvest, I invested an amount of money that it may have stretched me, but it was something that I could afford with
Mhm.
the situation that I was in. And the program or the journey that I went on with my mentor or my coach was more grounded, was more down to earth, it was more realistic. It
Mm,
was more the energy of like, hey, let's take small steps over time at a slow and steady pace without having these blown up expectations of like, you know, you're gonna join this program for 8 weeks and you're gonna make six figures, or these hyped up promises we often have when we sign up for programs, right? And I bought into this for a really long time because I thought that's what I'm after. Like I placed my self-worth or what I was thinking is success on a certain monetary outcome. And I couldn't even enjoy the process because there was such an attachment to the outcome. And if on top of it, I invested an amount that really was out of my scope with the current reality that I was living, there was the added pressure of making the money back. So my whole nervous system was like squeezed, fight or flight.
mm.
How was your experience?
As you're speaking to this, I'm feeling a lot of different things around this that I've experienced. First of all, that first program where we met, which was high ticket and then helping us set up ad to webinar to sales call, I feel like I had a slightly better experience with it, even though nothing really not nothing worked for me, but I did 237 sales calls or something, and I converted four, right? Because just now that I'm understanding, especially as a reflector, any kind of pushing and pressure, but also for projectors, is just not really doing it. But also when you're at a certain level, as a certain kind of, and I'm there a little bit more with my clients now, if they have a certain set of expertise and experience, and they know what they're doing, and they've done a lot of inner work, then there is a time and a space for those kind of 8-week programs where you're like, let's just buckle down, learn from the best, and put
Mhm.
this frame on, like put all of what I know and how I do things into this frame and funnel and make it work. But it doesn't for everyone. And I feel like it would be, that's why I'm also in my business, I have a membership now, which I avoided for a long time because I didn't know how, and what a different conversation, but because it is this consistency of going, like going to the gym. There's this space where it's really helpful, like you were talking about working with mentors and coaches, where your nervous system feels more grounded, right? For example, in the programs with Melanie and Leah, it was very far away for me too. And it was kind of interesting for me to stretch my consciousness into, oh, this could be possible for me.
Mm.
But in all these almost, what, I don't know how long ago was the pandemic, probably 5 years, right? It still hasn't become my reality. So I guess for someone like me, and I don't know what that means, right? Whether that's my type or what my soul has to go through in this lifetime, this kind of flashy online business is just not happening. And also probably because I don't want it. But
Mm.
there is a time and a space for other online coaching experiences. And when we can make this more of a grounded, low ticket thing for the people who need that at the time, because a lot of people don't need these high cost things that you and I bought a lot of, right? I remember working with a one-on-one coach just because I could, because I had money from my divorce. So I had no pressure, like, oh, I'll just hire her one-on-one. And I didn't really get that one-on-one thing out of it that other people got, because she called herself the millionaire maker at that time. But what I really needed was like help with my relationship, because that was keeping me so small, right? So it's not that I feel like I misinvested. It's just I think as a coach, and this is slightly sideways, but there's also the responsibility of helping people invest properly, right? If
Yeah.
somebody if somebody comes to me now and wants to do one-on-one, and I have a conversation with them and they're like, I have nothing in place. I'm like, I don't think you'd really benefit from this.
Yeah, no, this is such a good point because, like you also say, the program when we met, it worked for some people. And in hindsight, what I learned through this experience was like it worked for the people that had already very established programs and businesses. They had a lot of client stories already. I still remember the one example was somebody was teaching people how to do handstands. And obviously, when you can make handstands, you're very fit. So it was a whole fitness transformation, right? And but I think they also had a book written and it was a very solid business already, right? And they were ready to scale. They probably did a lot of organic already and now it's time to scale for them, you know? And you and I at the time, we were not qualified for the program, right? And again, if you look at the money that I had or the income that I was having, the investment was just so big that it was totally out of context with that. So that's why I'm so grateful now and almost feel like we have a responsibility to talk about this because a lot of my clients, of your clients, they're mainly online or aspiring online entrepreneurs or already established online entrepreneurs, right? So this is now, especially for those of you that are kind of new in the game. You still haven't fully figured out what's your ideal client. You haven't fully figured out what is your signature offer or any of this. You are in the experimenting phase. You're trying things out, see what works, what doesn't work. It takes time, right? I always say like throw the spaghetti on the wall and no matter what your human design type is, we have to try things out. And you learn over time who your ideal client is, what is your, if you want to call it a niche or a specific group of people that you work with. And then at some point, there comes a time where, considering to the money that you already make or the clients you have, making a high ticket investment is absolutely appropriate. And that's what we want to talk about today specifically is to listen to your authority, which is your body. Really ask your body if an investment is aligned for you, because that's the one big thing that human design taught me. And I often have told my clients, like, I think I'm saving you a lot of money because I'm helping you actually listen to your body. And sometimes a high ticket is absolutely aligned, but many other times it's absolutely misaligned, right? And then it can also obviously unnecessarily slow down our success in some way, right? Where we make it harder than it has to be.
Yeah, and human design can be such a beautiful guide for this. And I know I'm still really big into the types. Obviously, for me now that I've found out that my true activation, where the stars really were born, were born, where when I was born,
Yeah.
um, that I'm a reflector. And I've noticed over the years, and especially as I am looking more in my spending habits of, which program did I join and how did that work out for me, and sometimes when I sat with something for longer, it just fell away, and
Mm.
and of course with my reflectoring, and I was always priding myself, like at one point in my life I had to learn how to make decisions because I felt like I was the most indecisive person I knew.
Mm.
Now I know why, but that's okay. But then when I was a self-projected projector in tropical, I made decisions from my heart, and I did that a lot in my life as well, and that was always the closest to, you know, waiting a full moon cycle. But now I'm seeing so much more how I get taken over energetically by things. Like even the example I think about now that we're sitting here in front of each other's Zoom screens, the wall behind you, when you painted it, and I'm
Mm.
like, oh, I'm painting a wall dark. I'm like, I need to do that, right? So I was almost getting ready to also paint a wall in my house because I am so highly influenced, and we all are, but I'm just feeling it more, right? So I have to be a lot more discerning about this. It's like, oh, a couple weeks later now, I don't feel like I need to draw, like paint a wall or whatever. But it's the same with these online coaching experiences, right? Or you introduce me to a new coach, and I'm like, oh, I need to work with her too, right? And that is not something that I did wrong. It's just I didn't know. And now I can use my authority and just say, like, okay, somebody says I should do this course. If I have time and space and it's low investment or free, I can do it or see if I want to do it. But otherwise, especially for my spending, let's just wait a little bit, because the the importance of slowing down, especially for the nervous system as an entrepreneur, is also what gets you out of scarcity mode. Because every time we're rushing so much and rushing to make a decision and do I need this or do I need that, then we get ourselves into fight or flight. And when we get ourselves into fight or flight, we have adrenaline and cortisol. And then our brain already thinks more in scarcity mode too. And then we're like, oh, everything's tight, money is tight, blah, blah, blah. I should do this course. And then we take decisions from that place. Every decision we make from scarcity, whether that's in money or in other areas of life, will create more scarcity because the seed of everything is what carries through in the energy of it.
Let's talk about this more. So, what Alex was just saying, making an investment from scarcity basically means that we place a solution onto something outside of ourselves. And I was there for many years where I was like, I need this program, otherwise I cannot be successful in my business. And now I need this. And I always thought like people have figured out the magic trick or the secret, right? And I also ended up like one, I invested too much. And especially, so every time more money than I was used to having in my account appeared, I would find another course to spend it on. So I started to realize, I'm having a hard time to hold on to money. While I also was like, well, I'm thankful now I have the money and I can spend it right away. And then I started to realize any time where I projected a solution onto the program that they would fix it for me, it wouldn't work. It would be more disappointing results. And also, I ended up investing into too many things at the same time, and I wasn't fully there. And I think we have all been there, right? We're like doing all the things, we don't even using it, we're paying for things, and we forgot that we have the access to it. Like, been there, I've done that many times. Now I'm very thankful to be able to share this with you guys, so you can hopefully avoid some of these learning lessons or mistakes in a way that you and I have gone through. And then on the other hand, when I resisted the urge, which I really learned through human design, so when we talk about listening to your authority, it means, is this really a body yes? Is this a grounded feeling? Did you give yourself the time and space to to sleep on it. And right now, we don't have the time to go into all human design types and all authorities. In a simplified way, is how does this feel in your body? Anytime it's a big decision, meaning it's a bigger investment, not only with money, but also with your time and your energy. I always say for everyone, sleep on it, take your time. Maybe you need to talk it out with a good friend where you just need to hear yourself. Does it keep feeling a yes in your body? Or is it yes and no and maybe? And does it come from a pressure place? Or does this come from a ground and calm place? So if it's really from a calm and grounded place, if there's no pressure behind aka, like you feel like, oh, you have 24 hours to sign up or you're going to lose the deal kind of marketing. That's why those types of marketing I no longer entertain because they were never good for my nervous system. Right. And I also implemented this in my own business for years now, where especially for higher ticket things, I'm not hyping up things in any way or form. I have a longer period of time where people can make the decision. And yeah, it may be that less people sign up than some other people that really push it and hype it up and use a lot of scarcity tactics. But I don't want to do this to my clients because that's not what I'm available for anymore. And it's okay for me if I'm growing slower in my business. I really believe, especially as a Capricorn, in slow and steady success. Because look at the exponential curve, or you guys can look it up on ChatGPT or on Google. It goes very, 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 very slow for a really long time. That's where often we like, no, I need to find the magic and I need to force myself out of it. And then we always get pushed back. And then the lower phase takes even longer and even longer. But when we can be patient and we can just really surrender into our unique journey, right? Comparing ourselves with anybody, I think will always just slow us down unnecessarily. And at some point, if it's meant for us, there will be the time where it's like, now it's time to scale. Now it's time to do Facebook ads. Now it's time to go really big. And I always find it comes when I'm not really consciously trying to figure that out in my mind. It's more the universe is like, hey, Analena, hey, Alex, you're ready for it. Like, we are starting to have these money talks this year. It happened out of the flow of life. You had an
Yeah.
intuitive insight when you first asked me about it. We're not here like, there's no strategy behind. We just want to share this because I really think it's so helpful for people. And then we started to talk, and then all of a sudden you were like, hey, why don't we share this with our audience? I mean, you have a podcast, we both have a YouTube channel. We have quite of an audience for all these years that we have been doing this amazing coaching, mentoring, guiding people into their purpose and building their own businesses. And hey, money is just a really big topic. So somehow we are ready to really expand our financial reality. And we're already seeing it. I can tell you, like, I feel so much better with money. Like, my nervous system is, I feel rich. I can still become richer when it comes to how I feel about money. But if I look back to 7 years ago, I was super broke in terms of my nervous system regulation with money. I was making rushed investments. I was putting money on a pedestal. I was projecting my business success onto other people and programs. I wasn't trusting myself. And now I'm really like, I'm surrendered into my process. I go with the flow. I let go of the over planning, the overthinking. But I'm also starting to own and claim I love money. And I want to have more flow of it in my life. I want to have access to it even more so I can keep sharing this abundance with more people. And on the flip side, because right now I think we would talk more about, hey, when it's time not to overinvest into things, right? There's also the other side where am I maybe holding on to money too tightly? Because I can get there, I can get really frugal and like, and for me, to give you an example, is that spending money for groceries, like good groceries, meaning going to the farmer's market, that is something so deeply nourishing to me. And I rather spend money on that than buying fancy clothes, or right now it's the next program or whatsoever, or if it's a fancy car, I'd rather have good food in my fridge. And this is something I'm also working on, to actually allow myself to spend money on certain things that are good for my well-being and that I do desire in my heart, if it's a beautiful flower on my table.
Yeah, I love that. And as you're talking, a lot of things come up. So I took some notes. That's how it always goes when we talk. And that's why we
Yeah.
felt like we have to share this, because when we speak and mastermind around money, so much comes through for us. But also in my business membership for undefined sacrals, mostly projectors and reflectors, which is called the Undefined Empire, we have our Abundance April going on right now. And in other memberships or programs, when they talk about abundance, it could be this whole thing about like, let's make as much money as possible in April, right? And first I felt that pressure too. I'm like, no, this is exactly what gets people onto the scarcity train, right? And to the crash and burn cycle. So one of the exercises or one of the homeworks we've all been focusing on in Abundance April in the membership is to look for abundance everywhere, right? And then one lady was like, yeah, Alex, but it's really hard to look for abundance everywhere when my bank account is just glaringly empty. And I was like, well, there's an abundance of space in your bank account
Oh,
for
I love
money.
that reframe.
Yeah. Or, one other one was about social media, and she said she found now she had a big breakthrough in, oh, there's an abundance of opportunity for self-expression, right?
Mhm.
Or like you said, when I still had a gas car and now I have an electric, but when I went and got a full tank of gas for my car, I felt abundant. Like I noticed that in my body, like you say, with quality foods, when I go to my favorite organic grocery store and buy there, like, and I have it in my kitchen and my fridge, I feel abundant. My fridge is full. I have snacks for
Mhm.
my kids. When my home is clean and tidy, I feel abundant, right? So one of the homeworks in our membership for this month to really program that in, looking for abundance everywhere instead of for scarcity everywhere. It's like, oh, what's lacking? What's lacking? Oh, what's not right yet? Like, let's look for abundance. And that's a big one to reprogram, because for the human mind, it's very natural to look for lack.
Yeah, I think that's where we most are on default. And this also reminds me, because I had a masterclass with my people last week, and I talked about the idea that we don't attract what we want, we attract who we're being predominantly. And if I say I want to make X amount of money every month, I'm basically telling the universe I don't have it. I'm in scarcity, I'm lacking it.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
totally.
But if I'm like you are saying, imagine the bank account is lower than what you want it to be, or you feel there's a lack. We have the power to shift how we perceive it. Like you say, like, oh, there's an abundance of space for more money to come in, or I now have an abundance of even time, because also investing in all these programs sometimes, at least when I did it too much, I felt so constricted in my freedom. I didn't even have time to do all these things. So now I do work with mentors. I think it's super important, but I'm so much more selective. And I really make sure, do I have the time to show up for the calls? Do I have time to do the work? Because if not, I'm just throwing money out of the window. And then also money is like, well, you don't really appreciate me. That's how I would see it, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why I think let's invite everyone listening also to dive into this exercise of like, who is the person that has a full bank account, that has the money that you desire in your heart? Like, who are you being as if? Just imagine. How would you talk? How would you speak? How would you act? How would you feel?
And a big mistake I've made around this in the past, and somebody else I listened to, I can't remember who it was, reframed this recently. Because there's often a lot of talk like, if you want to be a millionaire, you have to act like a millionaire.
Hmm.
But if you don't have the money, obviously don't spend like a millionaire, But it's more like,
Mhm.
feel like, how can you feel like a millionaire inside without having to overspend, or without making these panic purchases and stuff like that?
Yeah,
And
thank you for saying this, because we can take this the wrong way, like act as if a millionaire and then you just buy a boat or something and you just don't have the money. So it's more about the demeanor, the yeah, the daily actions that you take, how you show up for yourself, and also like how you value money in that sense. And it's also about, that was a game changer for me. It's not the money you're after or the thing or even the relationship, because after all, to me, money is a relationship. And we can talk about this maybe more next week or when we do our next live, how money is actually a relationship. Because what you want is how you feel when you have the money. That's all. So if you can tap into the feeling of that now, time starts to collapse. And that's really what quantum physics and manifestation teachings are all about. That's what Joe Dispenza's work is about. That's what the teachings of Neville Goddard are about. And this is something that I'm finally starting to get. I have heard about this for all these years, but it really makes sense because all of us, especially if you're watching this right now, you have access to either a phone or a computer, to the internet. You're really well off compared to many other people in the world. Look where there is abundance in your life right now. And if you have a hard time with that, I give you another hot tip. Wonder about it. I wonder how much abundance is actually already in my life that I'm currently not seeing. I'm so curious and I'm so willing and committed to allow myself to see and notice and actually feel all the abundance that I already have access to.
yeah, that's beautiful. And I also wanted to touch on to something else because we were talking about the authority and guiding us how to spend money with the authority. First of all, like you're saying, and we'll go deeper into all of these concepts over the next episodes or, over our next continued talks. But if money is, you're having a relationship with money, and how much pressure you're putting onto that relationship to make you feel happy, to make you feel worthy. If that was a first date, that person would run the other way. And so does money,
Mm.
and in extension, money is an expression of, money is one of the creator's love languages. And so when you are providing value, especially as a spiritual person, and here we're not going to get into this, then why do drug lords have so much money? They
Yeah.
have a different trajectory, but for all of us on a soul path, and especially where money is one of our big spiritual teachers, like in my life, in your life, and a lot of people I'm sure who watch this,
Mm.
the creator gives you money as a love language, right? And so that's a good question to investigate, even like, okay, if the creator's love language or one of them is money and I'm not receiving it, like, where am I not open to receiving that love from the creator? And also, what does that reflect of how I create in the world? What value do I create in the world, right? Because money is a direct um, translation of how much value we create in the world.
Mm.
Maybe there's a value in drug lords giving out a lot of drugs, maybe those people have to go through these experiences. We don't know. But in the coaching industry, for sure, or when we have a business like we do that is very spirit and soul aligned, we can say, how much value we give into the world is also how much we're taken care of. And like you said, money and abundance is not just a thing of money. It's a feeling of how much food we have in the fridge. It's a feeling of peace and safety inside. It's the feelings that we have to nurture inside first in order to be able to attract money from that energy. We can't get money to make us feel happy. We can't get money to make us feel safe. Money will come when we're happy, when we're safe, when we are feeling all these things already inside. And
Yeah.
the other, sorry, I just wanted to tag this on with the authority too, because your authority can really help you decondition. And a lot of people are like, after, like, I don't know how to decondition, I don't know how to do that, right? But especially when your money reality isn't, or your bank account reality isn't yet what you want it to be, chances are that you're not truly listening to your authority, because your authority will decondition you. And then there are all these fake no's that can come through. For example, somebody saying, oh, I asked my authority and my authority is a no, because they're feeling a fear in the body. And the fear is not a contraction, but it's that different fear where it's the nervousness and the expansion they're feeling, the possibility and potential for expansion. They're feeling, oh my gosh, my next level is available. And then they shut down because their nervous system can't hold it, can't handle it, can't go there. And then it's a fake no, that your authority is really telling you, I'm giving you a little bit of fear, I'm giving you excitement, but you're interpreting it with a no because you don't want to go into your next level. And
Yeah,
so
that's a
when
good point.
yeah, when we don't listen to the fear part and we're actually listening to our authority and taking the yes on whatever is that nervous system, even if it's saying no to a course, like in my case, I have no problem spending money on courses. For me, the deconditioning is to say no to something and having that FOMO of like, oh, but
Mm.
that's for me where the expansion often is. And that's the deconditioning. And we can't get to our next money reality if we don't listen to our authority deconditioning us.
Yeah, it's a beautiful point because I think our biggest message here is today really listen to your body and see where you're at. Maybe like what Alex was sharing, right? She has more of a tendency to overspend on courses and things like that. And for her, it's more to actually be with the discomfort of missing out on a program and actually realizing that she already has everything that she needs. And as she says no to the right thing, something maybe better, more affordable comes her way, which I think we often see. And that could also be the case for you, right? Where you need to more lean into this, like less is more. The other side could be where you feel like something is really yes for you. It really feels that's your authority, right? When I say like the body yes. But then the fear kicks in because by investing into this, you have to show up. You have to take new action that's uncomfortable out of your comfort zone. You're here to grow and expand. And hence, we may mentally talk ourselves out of it from doing it.
You know, and what if it doesn't work?
Yeah, exactly. So we have these two sides, and it's like today is just about inviting you to become aware. Drop the judgment. It's not about doing something right or wrong. It's about getting really, really curious about, on which extreme is more familiar to me and where can I work on. So and Alex is saying decondition, right? Because so you can get to a place where you just make the aligned money spending or money not spending decisions for yourself. There is no one way, right? This is an experiment. You have to dive into yourself. But the more you ask questions, okay, is this a money decision that is aligned for me? Or is this coming from fear of missing out? Ask God, universe, ask. The more you ask, the more answers you will be given. And I think the one big tip, I think I said it earlier already, anytime you feel pressure from something outside of yourself, if somebody's telling you like, yeah, but you have to make the decision today or you're going to miss out on the bonus or something like that, and you have not that clarity in your body, I would always say it's a no, But if you know deep inside, it's a full yes, it's right, but you keep trying to analyze and overthinking it, and then the fears obviously come up and we're unconsciously sabotaging our next level of success, then it may be for you to actually lean into it and take that leap of faith and do invest in whatever it is. If it's a $200 course, if it's a 500, if it's a 5,000, they're different numbers, different values, the different scenarios, the different coaches. different experiences. So our intention is for you to make those aligned money decisions, because that's really where it all starts to become so much more holistic. And you start to also learn that it's safe to grow, it's safe to expand, it's also safe to trust yourself and not overspend. And it's also safe to just let the money be there, where we don't have to always get rid of it, because you are worthy also to start accumulating a certain amount of money, right? And then it's going to flow again, and you will find the right thing where you want to channel this energy into. So it's a dance, and everybody's dance is unique.
Very much.
Hmm.
We all have a different music.
Yeah.
I love it so much. Yeah. Well, I'm very excited about these talks, and I can't wait to do more and more of them. I think it will help a lot of people shift a lot of things in their money, financial reality. And that's our intention.
Yeah, so we would love to hear from you guys below in the show notes if you're watching this on YouTube, or send us an email. I'm gonna make sure both of our contact information is in the show notes of this episode. Like, what's your biggest takeaway? What are you struggling with money, or what's going well? Again, really important, drop the judgment. And Alex and I, we're both really excited to be back with you probably next week. We're planning right now to do it on a weekly basis, but we already said in the beginning, we're not going to put any expectations out there. We're just going with the flow here. We don't know for how long we're going to do these money talks, but for now, it feels really good. And we're just going to see where this is going to take us, with the intention to really make a difference in your reality with money. And Alex, thank you for being here. It was a blast. It's so nice to have somebody to respond to. I always like, my favorite episodes are definitely where I get to talk to someone. Hmm.
Same. And for me, it's such a joy to reflect.
Yeah, right, exactly.
All right, my dear. Bye bye, people. Else, we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, we will be back next week with you with another spiritual money talk. Bye, everyone.